will ask.
This meeting is being recorded.
Brilliant. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our Walking Plus special interest group. And it's taken us a little while to get going, but on the back of the last meeting last year, a few key topics emerged that people seem to be keen to meet again to discuss. One, the idea of sharing good practice, hot tips, what's worked well when difficulties were encountered, what do people do to overcome those obstacles, and what opportunities have people noticed in creating their walking activities and the activities surrounding the walks. So that's something we will be getting different speakers to kind of share good practice. The other topic that emerged was sharing resources. That idea of if you've already created a walk, did you find a particular online tool useful? Did you find, if you're creating a walk for dog walkers, but there's a lot of wildflowers on your walk, the people who are creating wildflower walks, might they be able to share some of their learning resources or some of their expertise? Or could you simply share your route with them? That kind of idea of building up little clusters as well, people who enjoy one type of walking activity, get to know the others, which nicely is a nice segue into what we're looking at today. One key topic that kind of emerged was very much the idea of, how we've created this wonderful route. Now, how do we let people know about it? How do we let our local community around us or those with a particular hobby interests, or indeed people who are wanting to get fit and healthy, how do we get our message out there? Many of us are either small organizations or non-commercial organizations. We don't have big marketing tools. So, how can we let people know about what we have to offer and get the message out there? And I'm delighted to welcome Simon and Gareth from Active Norfolk today, who are going to help us on that mission. And I'll pass it over to Simon now, who's going to say a little bit about Active Norfolk.
Thank you. So I guess I just thought it would be helpful to give a little bit of a summary of where we are in terms of our new strategy and what our organisation aims to achieve. So as the strategic lead for sport and physical activity for the county, our aim, our vision is that physical activity is the norm for everyone in Norfolk, and that certainly is to ensure that it's accessible, that people understand what there is that they can do, that any natural or perceived barriers to being active can be remedied or support and guide people to living a lifestyle that supports some of the and enables people to live a long, healthy and active life. And I think some of that comes down to what we know about the experience of living in Norfolk. There is a fairly high level of inactivity. Just over a quarter of adults in the county are classed as inactive, which is doing less than 30 minutes of physical activity a week. And we know that doesn't help for your own health and well-being. And so our aim in all our work really is to support and enable people to be more physically active and to be aware of the resources and facilities that exist to support that. And that's to focus on areas such as health and well-being, because we know that as the Chief Medical Officer has quoted in the past, if it would be described as the wonder drug, physical activity, if it was commoditized in the way medicine was, because it has such a beneficial outcome for in terms of health prevention, but also in terms of reducing the impact of many long-term conditions. But we also know that physical activity has a role to play in strengthening communities, in the development and mental health and well-being of our children and young people, but also the wonderful environments that we have in Norfolk, how we can ensure that not just that some of the formal sport and built facilities that we would know, but the natural areas, the green spaces, the parks, the beaches, and the Broads, and an amazing countryside that we have, how we can ensure that those areas are really designed and accessible for people to promote choice, and ultimately enable people to integrate physical activity into part of your daily life. So with that part of that is ensuring that there is that people have a place to go to find out about what resources and activities are put on by other organizations. And that was one of the reasons for the development of our Every Move activity finder tool. And Garrett's going to cover that now to just give you an overview of Every Move and discuss how you can contribute to it and make use of that resource to support your physical activity.
Great, thanks, Simon. Yeah, so as Simon said, Every Move is an activity finder. There are quite a few activity finders on the kind of in general operation in different areas, but Every Move is different because it is focused solely at the user, and everything is done with the user at its heart. And therefore we think, well, I think, and I think, yeah, you can make your own minds up, but we've developed a really usable tool that has a huge amount of potential and is already kind of bearing fruit, so to speak, with that, in that we have 420 providers signed up, and these are people obviously whose job is not marketing their activities, but they run the activities. But through the system, we are enabling them to list and promote the things that they do to people in Norfolk. And one of the strengths of the system, I think, is that it's really flexible, and that was an absolutely key component, really, because as we all know, physical activity is massively diverse. In years gone by, people tend to think of just playing football or joining a club, but that really doesn't sum it all up. As you guys all know, going for a walk is physical activity, and there are millions of different things you can do. So we needed to build something that would enable a croquet teacher to list their activities, as well as it would enable a badminton club, as well as it would enable a cycling group. So that was quite a tricky challenge, but I think we've come somewhere close, in that the current diversity of activities on the site is really strong. And I will just share the activity finders. You can see. Hang on a second. Okay. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So this is how it looks, and we paid a company to create a brand identity, which has very much been integrated by the developers into the platform. So it's very distinctive, which is obviously really good from a brand awareness point of view. It's not like other sports brands, as you can probably tell. It's very kind of welcoming, pastel colors, nothing bold in your face and in any way aggressive. It's quite soft going. The basic search function here is guided, because our target audience is people who are currently inactive, so they will need a bit of help, we would assume, to find something, and our kind of user testing has shown that to be the case. So if you can find what do you want to do, exercise alone, go start light, there's lots of things you can do. And we have here a panel for kind of be inspired, where we can promote specific types of activities. So we have flexibility and balance, and obviously running, and yeah, I would hope that walking will soon occupy one of those slots, because we can customize those slots as we see fit. And I think walking is the most accessible form of physical activity, I think. And also, I think it's something that people come to Norfolk specifically for and like to do in Norfolk. So we want to make the most of our local area and get people out and about, really. So yeah, as you can see, these are the current activities we have, and you can see there's quite a density of them. And as you zoom in, they kind of, the pins separate, and there's more and more. Norwich is obviously the hub because that's where the most people live. Great Yarmouth has a good spread too, and there's all kinds of things. So here, this is what I mean by the diversity. We have Junior Bushcraft Club. That is very kind of niche, but this platform enables the listing and promotion of that type of activity. And obviously you can see here you've got Sit Fit Online, which is online sitting down courses, and Pilates for over 40. So there's a good spread, and it's most of the classes are aimed at beginners because it's very obvious from the way it is that it's a beginner friendly thing, which we're keen to promote. Before I talk about walking a bit more, I will just show another facet of this system, which I think is really important, which is that we're really big on safeguarding in Active Norfolk, and of course, as well you should be. And one of the strengths of this website, I think, is that if we can get it out there in Norfolk, make it really well used, we can change things on a grand scale. And the reason I say that is because we have this raise a safeguarding concern, and that button will allow the user, will create an email for the user to send it directly to us about a concern they might have about a provider or an issue that happened at a session. And the reason that's really good is because we know through our safeguarding training and our safeguarding team in Active Norfolk that sport and physical activity is a kind of, it is a kind of breeding ground in a way for safeguarding abuses, and that needs to change. And the only way that is going to change is by having a form of recourse, and at the moment that doesn't exist. So if you were to go to a session and somebody said something or did something that made you feel uncomfortable, you couldn't really do anything. Like you probably wouldn't go back, and you might tell your friends, but there's not really, because you can't tell the police about that because it's not a crime in most cases, and therefore there's little that can be done really, and therefore the instructor or whoever keeps on doing the same things, and there's no recourse for the people who need to be protected. So with this kind of safeguarding button, it enables those incidents to be reported to us so that we can then escalate it to our safeguarding team, and hopefully, I mean, we're talking a long way down the line because it needs to be embedded and established as a service that we can offer. We can make sport and activity a really kind of safe thing in Norfolk, and hopefully beyond. But at the moment, that we've got a long way to go. But I want to make a big deal about that because I think the sector needs it, and or at least something like that. So I'm quite optimistic about where that can go. I also want to talk now about walking. So obviously that's why we're here largely, but this site does facilitate walks at the moment. And Karen, I think you uploaded a few walks. I noticed there's a few other walks. NHS Wellbeing Walks have on there. So if you search walking, we show all the walks we've got in Norfolk at the moment, which is only 13, which we need to increase that number. But I just click on one here, which is Wellbeing Walks in Goulston, and we look, and this is the way it's been done. So we've got an image of the walk, we've got a little bit about it, we've got where it is, and we've got the date and time. Now, and contact information here is quite important, as well as facilities that are at the walk, which that's all part of the kind of every move service, which is giving users as much information as you possibly can. But I think this is a good time to probably say that there is kind of another way to do this, which is that Karen, this is particularly for you. If you're going to list a walk, you'd want to log in using your login details, and then then this is how you list walk to anyone who hasn't done it. You would log in, and then what you would do to log in to add an activity, you would click this button, add an activity, and it takes you through to create an activity. It's really very easy. But for a walk, because it's not a thing that happens at a certain time, you're best off going over here to this little piece of writing here, which says add a facility. And by going through hit this, you don't need to add a date and time. It just adds a facility such as a walking route for people to access at any point in time. And yeah, so obviously walks, leisure centres, things like that, they come under that category because, you know, they have their own, leisure centres in particular have their own websites, their own opening times, things like that. There's, you know, obviously with an activity you have to choose a start time and an end time and a date and a frequency of repetition, which doesn't really apply to walking. So that's what I would suggest with the walks. But so we are walking is a big part of this site, and it's going to be an even more significant part of this site because we're working on at the moment developing a kind of trails network that will form part of the site. If I just show you how that will look, this is how it's been mocked up, and obviously this has not been branded up, but this is generally the functionality, which is that they've used the example, the Cromer to Wells next to sea trail, and you can see here that it's got points on the route which you can click on. It's got parking, toilets, and you can filter which ones you can see. Those the purple ones, sorry, are kind of points of interest, and the brown ones here are picnic areas or benches where we've got available data, because we know from speaking to the Alzheimer's Society and people like that that a place to sit down is really kind of crucial for a walk. More information about how long does it take, what's the distance, as well as, you know, point 1 on the map, what is that? Well, you know, you can click on it, it'll bring up a little box and it'll tell you what it is. So, and you know, cost free, when is it open and where is it? So that's what we're aiming to do with our walks. At the moment, they are just in the format of any other kind of facility listing, which is that they show you where to start the walk. They have to, in the description, it tells you where you need to go and what it will do. But we're trying to take that to another level, to make it an interactive map with kind of waypoints on it. And we're using GPX files, which I understand custom footprints guys, you use those, which is really good to see, because that's, you know, the hope I would have is that once we've got the model for it set up, we can sort of speak to you guys directly about getting your walks in that format, so that it's really easy for the user and it's all in one place. It's all on this site, so people don't have to, you know, download something, go to Strava or go to another app, which they may not have. So, you know, it's just an easy decision for them to make. Oh, that sounds like an interesting to do, and the hope is that they'll go. So that's in development at the moment. Our developers are working with the NCC environments team to put that all together, and the hope is by the end of, well, I'd hope by the end of this month, but you know, things move slowly, but we can only hope. But I know it's being worked on right now, so once we've got more on that, I'll come back to you and let you know that this is how it's now working. And you know, I always find the best thing with these things, I can show you, but just by playing with the site yourself and seeing how it works, that's kind of the most useful way to get to grips with it, I think. But yeah, so that's every move basically. That's what we're doing. I think the potential for it as a site is massive, and I think it's already being adopted by lots of different partners across the system. So you know, I'm speaking to local authorities and the CCG and the health system, and yeah, we're really trying to make it, you know, because the way in which it's unique, I suppose, in Norfolk is that it is just one thing. It's just physical activity. You know, we limit it to that, which makes it valuable, because a lot of these type things, they get kind of blended in that people people sort of look at them and think, oh, I could put my thing on there, when it's not really the core remit of the project. And the problem with that is that you lose your core purpose, I think. So we're being quite strict that physical activity we really want on there. So for you guys, for walking routes, we'd really like to see as many walking routes on there as possible. But we've had kind of queries from arts and crafts people and things like that, which is a totally fair query, because it's not a million miles away to put an arts and crafts day for kids. That's an activity. It's just a different kind of activity, and we just can't we can't go down that route, because once you say yes to that, you can say yes to other things. So we've just got to be quite strict with that. It's physical activity only, and I think that is a wide enough remit, really. So I'm going to stop talking now. But if there's any questions about the site or about the developments that are coming with the site, yeah, please do let me know.
I don't know if Kat can speak because she's in a busy office, but she has put in the chat, can one-off walks be added? I attempted to answer that, but I'd like you just to confirm, Simon. Can one-off walks be added?
Yeah, I think, Gareth, you showed that in the health walks. Each of those health and wellbeing walks is actually a one-off walk, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. So yeah, lead walks, which usually the one-off walks are lead walks, aren't they? So somebody is, it's a Thursday at 10, we'll walk this route. Absolutely, you can have that. And when you set up an activity, it will ask you, when is it? When does it start? How do you get there? And it will give you, I think this is particularly important for walks, it will give you a free text option for directions, because you can put in a postcode, but often with walks and things, especially in Norfolk, it's kind of, we meet by the third tree at the end of the park. That tree hasn't got a postcode, but so you need to write that in yourself, because only if you read that would you know that. So the answer is yes, you can do that. If it's a lead walk though, I would add it as an activity, and if it's a walk where turn up yourself, do it whenever you want, I would add that as a facility. I think that's the big difference.
And just building on Kat's other question about parking and public transport options to get to activities and to get to start points, it's a really important point. It's something that certainly we in Active Norfolk are very keen that there is the easiest possible method of finding useful, sustainable routes to get to activities. I think being active en route to an activity is the ideal, but that often is we're often constrained by our transport infrastructure and networks, or just access to information. So you may be at the beck and call of Google that pushes you towards the most convenient, quickest route, as opposed to the alternate options that may exist, such as walking, cycling, or public transport. So we're certainly keen and are working with lots of other colleagues to try and ensure that there is better information available to people in how to travel in sustainable, healthy ways.
Yeah, just to add to that, on Monday I had a meeting actually with this company who, Simon, you've also met with before, which is they're a small tech startup in Coventry, and they do active travel mapping, and it's their kind of whole thing. And the plan is to build that into the activity finder, into every move, whereby each listing, if you scroll down, will have a map, and it will have your way to get there, and it will prioritize cycling or walking if that's feasible. I mean, if you're driving from here to Cromer, I live in Norwich, from Norwich to Cromer, then it's going to tell you to take the bus or train or to drive, because it will take you 3 hours at least to cycle. So but the idea is very much there, and it's quite a clever system in that it tells you your carbon that you'll burn by taking each mode of transport that it suggests, and how many calories you'll burn if you decide to take one that isn't driving. So that's in development. And yeah, like I say, because we've built a brand new platform, this is in no way the final iteration of it. It's a constantly evolving piece of software that we base our developments on what our providers tell us they want to see or what they think that they would need, you know. So we have a big development going on at the moment with the Holiday Activity Fund guys, because we want to make that project run as smoothly as possible, and because we own the software, we can build whatever they need, and that never existed before. So yeah, that's something probably to tell you guys as well. If you go on the site, it doesn't work for you in some way, it's worth emailing us to let us know, because we can pass that back to our developers and they can basically build it around the needs of our providers, because we've done loads of user testing to get it to this point, but we've only user tested about 50 people generally who we chose to be representatives of a much larger group, but everybody's got kind of unique needs, and the amount of changes, how different it is now to when it launched just 3 weeks ago is already quite startling for me. But it's quite good, because it's what we want to do is get it to a point in a year's time or 2 years time where it's really, really useful for everybody, and just build bits on as and when we get budget, and as and when we get demand for it. And yeah, just to have those options are really good. So please, yeah, I would say use it, and if you have problems, let us know, because it's the only way we can make the change.
And I think I'd like to add to that, Gareth. One of the things I thought was really useful, and I've posted a couple of walks on there so far, is that the little tags, are you someone on your own? Are you someone that wants to go out as a family to walk? Are you starting out? Those little tags are really helpful way for the users to access your information. I wonder, as more walks get added, whether there might be keywords emerge for different types of walkers, like dog walkers, or walkers interested in flowers, or walkers interested in heritage. That over time, as more walks get added, there might actually be almost like a subset of key terms for different types of walkers. That could be quite fascinating to see. What do people want?
Yeah.
What kind of walking do people want to do, and what kind of provisions are there out there? Would something like that be potentially possible once more walks get added, to sort of see what are the key terms? And that would be a thing for people to think about when they're advertising their walk. What kind of walkers are they? What kind of key term could you use in your description?
I think that's definitely right. I think that the aim from day one has always been to make walking a massive part of this platform, because, as I said, it's the most accessible thing you can do. And the project was funded by the Monument Project, which is for carers of people living with dementia. And a lot of the things they want to see is accessible maps for people who have dementia, or carers of people with dementia, to be able to just go for a walk. And it was also funded by the Experience Project, who do out of season tourism. So walking is absolutely imperative for both of those projects who basically paid for it. So therefore, we need to make sure walking is really kind of front and center. But at the moment, I feel like with walking, we're just getting started with it, really. So at the moment, it's fine for people to put, as you have done, to put walks on there. You can do it, and it's a really good start. But we know for it to be genuinely useful, we need to do more. So the trails is the next bit, using GPX files, so it's a genuinely interactive map. The A to B transport planner built into the system, that's another facet of it. And then, like you say, as we get more and more and more listed, we can begin to sort of massively narrow those down by category. And I do think that's really good. Like they say, the dog walking thing and wildflowers is something I would never have considered in a million years, but it's a thing that people who do walk their dogs in different areas all the time, it matters to them, and that's what we need. That's the insight we need. And so I think throughout this year, and especially, we'll make sure that walking really gets a lot of our time, because yeah, it's so important for what we do.
Music to our ears. And yeah, I think as people add in their walks, just thinking of the keywords that really describe who their audience are, you know, people going on quiet walks or busy walks or whatever, thinking how you describe it could end up being really useful for the future.
Yeah, definitely.
I do notice Nigel's been very patient with his hand raised.
Oh, sorry, Nigel.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Simon and Gareth. Very, very interesting. Great to see how things have moved on in the last few months. I've got 2 or 3 points, really. I was glad you mentioned that you're linking in with the trails team at the County Council, because I know they're doing some great work in terms of developing new long-term trails and so on, with historical interest and stuff like that. And also, I suppose, with the CCG you mentioned, because it seemed to me that inevitably one of the limitations with an online resource is that not everyone's online, even though most of us are, if you like, tech savvy these days. A lot of the people that we want to try and reach have problems with that. So I guess with those limitations in mind, couple of thoughts really, I suppose, is one, you may have touched on this, will there be eventually the capacity perhaps to print off something like a map of a trail from the site? And secondly, I wonder whether there's scope for actually including links from your site to the Green Care Network website and vice versa. Because one of the things I think that strikes me with what you've said is the scope of what you're trying to capture within the site. You've used the words sport and physical activity, but I think you've already acknowledged in some of the examples you've given that there are some activities where, if you like, the physical aspect of that can be seen as almost relatively minor. There are other benefits to mental health, to socializing, to education, to entertainment, whole range of other benefits, if you like, from that activity. So I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about whether you're expecting those sorts of activities to be included, you know, what the limits will be, if you like, and whether there would be any benefits in this sort of cross-linkage between our websites.
Yeah, I'll start with that point. I think absolutely. I think definitely there is and there will be ongoing benefits to link your website and every move. I think that is really important because, you know, as much as I want to get as much, I will concentrate a lot this year on walking, but it's never going to be my full area of work, because there's all kinds of different, you know, yoga, Pilates, badminton, all kinds of things that also need a bit of attention. So I can't preclude anybody, and therefore you guys, the Green Care Network, does one thing, which is the walking. So I think that having a link from basically every walk we have to the Green Care Network site would be really a useful thing to do. Can
I just stop you there? I mean, you may not be aware, but Green Care is covering a whole range of other activities as well. And as I sort of indicated in what I said, it wasn't necessarily just about benefits to physical health. There's a whole, you know, raft of activity going on out there, which yes, involves some physical activity, but perhaps you could argue the primary benefits are to people's mental wellness and also their ability to socialize, all those sorts of issues that are, you know, important, if you like, perhaps not quite as important as physical activity on occasions.
Yeah. So, I mean, my response to that would be that I think any activity listed on every move would have to have some form of physical element, and you know, it doesn't need to be much. You know, we have lots of chair-based boccia activities and things like that, which are not, you know, they're not very intensive at all, and we have lots of mental health groups on there where they do something active, but the purpose really is mental health. That absolutely has a place on every move, but I suppose the thing I'm trying to not make it is too broad, and because I think you lose your niche then, and you lose your purpose a bit, which I think is a bit of an issue, because if you get people searching for physical activity and they come across loads of painting classes, then I think that you have a problem, and that's what I don't want to do, because I've seen it happen with a lot of directories like this where they'll take anything they can get, and then it kind of lose what they're about. So yeah, as long as there is some physical element, I think that's fine. I mean, it can be like, you know, gardening would be fine, because gardening, as we all know, is hugely impactful on your physical and mental well-being. So if it's a gardening group, I don't think there'll be any problem with that going on there. And yeah, plus it's we do look out for, we employ a social media management company to put stuff on, to populate our social media channels, and I kind of say to them all the time, you look out for interesting new things that you get, because that's what people like to see, I think. And that's what, whether or not people have got any interest in going to them, just the knowledge that there's a diverse range of things, you know, because we have ballroom dancing, short mat bowls, we have the Deaf Synchronized Swimming Club, West Norfolk Deaf Synchronized Swimming Club. You know, these are all really very niche things, but they're interesting, and it's just about making the platform diverse and interesting. And I think the more different things we can get on there, the better. So yes, Green Care Network non-walking activities would absolutely have a place, provided they are physical in some way.
I'll just follow up on that. It may be that some of the things I'm thinking of wouldn't necessarily think to register on every move, but they're, if you like, shown on our website as a project of some sort. So I suppose, you know, we perhaps need to have a separate discussion, but ways in which we could flag up those activities that people might be interested in, but aren't necessarily registered on your site, but they're shown on ours, if you see what I mean. The other thing I wanted to just pick up very quickly, if I can. Yeah, sorry. Did you answer the question about printing off? I can't remember if you did.
Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry. So the answer to that question is no. At the moment, that isn't possible. But I don't see any reason why in future it can't be. But again, one of the good things is that we pay the developers an annual maintenance fee of £15,000 a year, and that gives us a good amount of free. It's not free, it's paid, but a good amount of built-in development time. So we can pretty much ask them to do things on a kind of day or weekly basis, you know. So we could once they've done the trails thing and they've got the GPS mapping sorted out, I see no reason why they couldn't build a button underneath which says print this off. Because I think you're totally right. If social prescriber is talking to a patient and said, you know, do you want to go on, we recommend you go on this walk a few times a week, and that, like, oh, I haven't got a computer, or you know, I don't have a phone that does that. If they could just print it out and give it to them, then I think that's really important. So yeah, I'll build it in, and in my next conversation, which will be next week, I'll just canvass it with them and see how they respond.
Great, thank you. The other thing finally was about updating. What provision is there for updating things?
Oh, sorry, do you mean on those listings on on the site? Yeah, so I think that is the key strength of this activity finder, which is that 90%, 99% of the things on there are all user generated. So that's really where I think that everybody, not everybody, I think that lots of other platforms go wrong in that they rely too much on open data or on, you know, or try to upload it themselves. But the problem is you lose a bit there, because if I'm uploading something on your behalf, I don't know what it is really. I've never been to it. I'm just sort of taking a guess at everything really. So you lose the personal feeling. And if you look through our directory as opposed to others, you'll see that there's a lot more kind of depth of information, a depth of the description, so much more personal and passionate really, and that speaks volumes, I think, because they're all conducted, all built by the people who actually run the sessions. So in terms of updating, we will wait for, you know, the user is in charge of their own account, and they can make changes to their own listing whenever they want. And so that that we rely on them to do that. We may have an issue at some point with people failing to update their sessions in 6 months. So we have a kind of blocker there, which is that after 6 months, you get an email from every move saying, is this still running? You know, because you put every week, but is it really every week? You know, like people move away, people do all kinds of things. We don't want to send people to things that aren't real, you know. So that's our provision. And the other thing is, of course, it's quite an interactive site. We have Facebook, Instagram, and we have buttons all over the site for people just to email us and say, I went on Tuesday and no one was there. That's annoying for the person who went on Tuesday, but as soon as we know that, I've got the admin access to the site, so I can go in and edit anything, you know, so therefore I'll go in and delete that because we can't be having that. But I think it's the best you can realistically do. I can't think of a better way to do that, really. So yeah.
No, you've hit the button. That's what I was going to say. You know, periodic reminder is the way to keep on top of that, isn't it? Yeah. Thanks very much. That's really helpful.
No problem at all. Cool. Is that everything?
For me, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. Can I just say, in having put in a couple of entries, I just reassure anyone who's thinking of using it, it's very easy to use. It's you get to create your own little profile, and then you're guided through the information that you have to put in. And it took me maybe 5 or 6 minutes. If you have a postcode handy and a picture handy, it takes you only about 5 or 6 minutes to put the details on for your walk. And it really is a very easy to use interface. And I just applaud Active Norfolk for this mission and its vision, but also its user-friendly nature as well. And thank you so much, Simon and Gareth, for talking to us today. And I just close by saying, we have another session planned for our Walking Plus group on the 25th of March, which is a Friday at 2 p.m. And we'll be looking at walking and men's mental health. And Colin Hurry will be sharing his experiences of a number of different projects. And I'm looking to potentially create a session for a few months running as we're getting into the walking season again, maybe taking a little break over the summer as well, busy doing our walk activities, and then rejoining again in September, October to think about the off-season period. I would love any of you guys, if you want to share best practice, if you want to share resources, ideas, or if you have any ideas where you'd like to hear something, please do get in touch with myself, which you can do at my name's Karen, and you can get in touch with me at k.smyth@uea.ac.uk, or indeed just through the Green Care Network Facebook site or email messages. And thanks, Sarah's already come up with one idea. That's perfect. That's what we want. Yes, any ideas of what you'd like to hear about in helping your walking group, but also if you would like to share any of your experiences and would like to host a session or be part of a panel, please do get in touch, and we want to work for you guys. So thank you very much, everybody.
Can I just say, Karen, before we go, a quick plug. Some people may be aware that Norfolk Association of Local Councils have been running a series of online workshops with the Trails, I think they're called, from Norfolk County Council. I went to one a couple of weeks ago, which was extremely interesting, where they talked about not only the existing trails that they've got, but those that are in the sort of planning stage. And I think there are 2 more sessions planned in the next few weeks, which are aimed at training, if you like, in developing trails and things like that at a local level. So I'll put in the chat perhaps a link to the person to contact for that, if anyone's interested in pursuing it. All right, thanks.
Great, thank you all. Thanks, Karen, for sorting and hosting, and Nigel, as always.
Thank you.
Thanks, goodbye.
Thanks, Simon and Gareth.
Thank you, bye-bye.
perfect.
All right.
Yeah. Very small numbers
Yeah,
attend.
that was disappointing, I think,
Yeah.
after the effort. But I was going to say,
Maybe if I give a bit more notice, we now know we've got the 25th of March date. So
yeah, if you can, I mean, if you give me the details of what you're hoping, to cover and so on. I know you mentioned it earlier, but the other thought I had was using Eventbrite. I know we didn't do that this time. We just put in the Zoom link, didn't we? And people very often, forget that, or it just gets pushed to one side. I think one of the advantages of Eventbrite is that you do get reminders, maybe even a couple of days before for people who have registered a place. Yeah. And it gives you the opportunity also to sort of do a bit more promotional information in the Eventbrite site. So maybe that's an option for the next meeting.
Yes, I really like that idea. Yes.
Yeah.
And are you able to get the recording out to people?